Hi friends, hope you are all doing well. I'm Dr. Ganguly. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about some insights about how to prepare for a interview for PhD. And typically there are many institutes, universities and research institutions which shortlist some candidates and then invite them for an interview. And this shortlisting may be based on your marks in your bachelor's and master's degree, maybe on some standardized tests such as GRE or GATE or GMAT and so on. And now you have been called for this program, and one of the reasons they do the interview is they want to check your research capability, which may not be clearly brought out in those tests. So those tests do tell about the knowledge of the candidate, but there are some more aspects that people want to learn about you. So I will discuss 5 points today about how to prepare for the PhD exam. So the number one question is you should master your research. So since you are going for a PhD, it's very likely that you have completed a master's degree, typically an MTech degree or a MS degree, and you have done a thesis. Now, what the committee is going to ask you is questions on the thesis. So if you have any particular problem in your thesis, you need to have a good mastery of that. If you have published any paper, that's a good sign, but be prepared to explain in one paragraph as to what is the main work you have done in your thesis, what is the main conclusion, what is the main importance of this work. This is very important. Now, they are also going to ask you at this point, what is the problem which you want to do, and this is something we are going to discuss later, but this should directly tie in with your thesis, or if it doesn't tie in with your thesis, it should lead to something coming out from the thesis. So again, that's something which is important. At this point, they may also ask you some questions about your courses and so on. So you need to know all the courses you have taken, you need to know the books which you have studied, the people who have written the books and so on, because they can very easily ask you something like, okay, you have taken a course in machine design, which book did you follow? Or did you take a course in computational fluid dynamics, which book did you follow? Or in deep learning, for example. So that's something to keep in mind. You need to know the name of the books and the people who write them, because if you don't, it will not come across as being very good. Now the second point is to know your fundamentals, and this is because you may be asked several questions which are of a very basic nature, and one of the reasons people ask these questions is to check your knowledge of fundamentals, because once you enter the university as a PhD student, you are of course going to do a lot of research and so on, but the capability of doing this research, the correctness of your research, all depends on your fundamentals being good, and therefore the people want to know at the basic level. For example, go back in your subject, look at the ingredients of physics, chemistry, math which constitute your subject. Do you know those pretty well? So if you are somebody from a mechanical background, then the focus will be on the mechanics side or on the thermodynamics side. So it could be on fluid mechanics, solid mechanics, thermodynamics. If you are in a computer type of department, then it could be something to do with databases or algorithms or compilers. So you are getting the broad hint. If you are in the material science department, then of course material science is the core subject here. So people are going to ask you a lot of questions about material science. So you need to prepare some of the fundamentals very well, because the professors are not going to prepare for the interview. They are not going to bring in their text and so on. They are going to rely on their memory to ask you questions. And so these questions are going to be mostly on the fundamental problems in your field. Now, if you are weak in a certain area, go to your class 12 books or even high school books, the main physics books there and so on, and go through some of the main parts of those books so that your fundamentals are very good. You do not want to be weak in the fundamentals in any way, because if that comes across in the interview, then that is going to be a disqualifying situation. So now let's look at point number 3, and point number 3 is that you need to know how to solve problems, write code and solve equations depending on your department, or you need to be able to write some of the main figures and plots and processes which are there in your field. For example, if you are in certain area like material science, you need to explain the various behaviors which are there in the mechanics of materials. So again, sometimes people lose their handle on solving problems, and people who are good at solving problems on paper may not be good at solving problems on the board. So you are asked to do these things on the whiteboard or the blackboard. So you need to have some practice here. You need to have some revision about some of the courses you have done, and make sure that you are able to solve the fundamental problems in your field so that you come across as well prepared for this particular situation. So again, remember here, the important thing is not that you solve the problem correctly. They are trying to look at what is your thinking process behind solving the problem. That is one thing. Secondly, they would like to see you try your best to solve the problem. So one of the things that the committee doesn't like is if you give up too soon, or you say that I don't know how to solve this problem, because that certainly comes across as a sign of lack of tenacity or stubbornness or willpower on the part of the student. And if you are giving up on a simple problem, then how are you going to be able to do research which is going to involve months, if not years, of working around one particular problem? So you need to try your best on any problem given to you, rack your brains and see how you can solve it. You can turn around to the committee for hints if you have not understood any part of the question, but do make sure that you try your best to solve a particular question. Now the fourth point is, they may ask you various questions about what is your clear map of the future. And this is important because people want to make a good estimate as to why you are coming into the PhD program. Now this is very important because psychology in the end trumps all the remaining technical issues which you know. Because if you have sufficiently deep psychological reasons for doing something, then you are going to be able to do it. So if you have a very clear concept about why you are doing the PhD, maybe you want to do a PhD, you want to learn a lot of stuff, you want to learn how to do research, publish papers, do a postdoc, join a faculty position or a research lab, then the committee knows that you have a clear concept about why you are doing a PhD, and you will then work hard to do this particular problem. Now, if you are very fuzzy about why you want to do a PhD, say you say I want to do a PhD and then start a startup, then there is no direct connection between starting a new company and say publishing papers. And so the professors want you there, they want you to publish papers, they want you to contribute to the literature, to write a thesis. So again, you should certainly at this point have a very clear-cut mindset that you are there to publish papers, write a good thesis, get a PhD, join some research institution, or become a faculty and do a postdoc. This is what they want to hear from you. So again, keep in mind if you are really interested in doing a PhD, because if you are having some qualms on these questions, then probably you are not ready to do a PhD. Now the fifth point is the fit. And this is where I see many people mess their situation up, even if they have been good in all the remaining things. Now the fit is important to know, because you need to know if you go to this department, is there somebody who can guide or supervise your research? Now what happens is that there is some guy who comes to a department and the entire faculty is working on, let us say, computational mechanics. And after a very good interview, he says, my interest is in doing some experimental work on certain material problems. Now immediately the faculty will realize, well, there is nobody here working on this problem. So remember that you will not be able to get a PhD supervisor there, and very likely then they are not going to select you. So that is the real fact of the situation. So before you go to any university or department to give the interview, make sure you have gone to the web page, make sure you have checked out the various professors there, you have gone to Google Scholar and checked out their profile there, seen some of their latest publication, and seen that do you have a person there who you want to work with. Now don't just have one person, try to have 2-3 people. So if you are asked to select some problems, you can give some problem which can be given to you or supervised by 2-3 people in the department, because it's not often the case that if you have only selected one person, you will be assigned to that particular person. Maybe that person has too many students, maybe he is going off on a sabbatical, maybe he is going off to a different university. You never know the dynamics of the department. So be sure to choose certain problems which are within the fit of the department. If you are going to interview to several different universities, then you may actually have slightly different problems at different places to do. So you will then be able to get the best out of the faculty and the university concerned. So that's a very important issue, having a good fit. And I've seen in many cases, unfortunately, people did not do any research on the department and they just thought this was like a bachelor's degree situation or a master's degree situation, but it is not. When you do a PhD, it is all about finding the right guide. It's a kind of guru type of figure, and therefore you need to make sure that this person you are getting is somebody who exactly gels with your problem, the problem you are trying to solve. So these were some pointers I had for you regarding PhD interview preparation. I hope you benefit from this, and stay tuned to my channel for more such videos. I will see you soon in a new video.